This is something that I harped on endlessly in my primary election, because regulatory reform is something that hasn't been focused on enough in the Commonwealth of Virginia. People just sort of take for granted that we have a regulatory environment where it might take you 18 months to get something approved, or as I heard a guy say recently, 6.5 years to get something approved. That's not an economy or an environment that is conducive, one, to entrepreneurism in your state. It's not conducive to having people want to locate businesses in your state, and it's not conducive to expanding the ones you've got. So, if you consider that, having talked about this forever and having had very unique experience in the regulatory environment, working at the U.S. Department of Energy as the Deputy General Counsel responsible for 1 year of a big regulatory review, it's incredibly important to do, I think in my mind, 3 things. A constant review of the cost of regulations, so that as you're actually applying new regs, considering new regs, and from an administrative standpoint, asking that question, what is the overall cost? Because that's key, and nobody ever thinks about that in my mind. Number 2, a really aggressive review of the regulations that we already have, because that's something that we're not doing, and those regulations over time are cumulative. And in a state like the Commonwealth of Virginia, it's been around for a very long time, guess what? We've got piles and piles of regulations on top of regulations, many of which are totally gratuitous and unnecessary, they're burdensome, and they're costly. And so we have to stop and say, let's do this review. And then the third piece of that is a big regulatory rollback. And I introduced legislation this most recent legislative session that would allow us that opportunity for the rollback piece. Because 1 and 2 are irrelevant and don't mean anything unless you actually will elect statewide leadership with a vision to say, we're actually absolutely going to execute on this too, and do the appropriate regulatory rollback that our communities and our businesses deserve. And they don't just deserve it, they're going to die without it. I mean, I'm watching it happen all the time.